For 150 years, the Bowery Mission has served generations of New Yorkers experiencing homelessness, hunger, marginalization, and poverty. From humble beginnings in the lower Manhattan slums to the present-day work across the city, they have seen countless lives transformed through God's love and acts of radical hospitality and compassionate care. The story begins in 1872, the year Jerry and Maria McCauley founded a mission among Manhattan's most destitute on Water Street. After leaving behind lives of alcoholism and crime for a new life of Christian faith, Jerry and Maria had a vision, a place for all of those in any kind of physical or spiritual need. The McCauley's mission had beds, endless food, and coffee, and prayer in the evenings. Any New Yorker in need was welcomed into the mission's community of hope and restoration. The simple concept was contagious. In the late 19th century, word of the McCauley's life-transforming work spread rapidly across the country and launched dozens of similar missions. The Bowery Mission was among the very earliest of these daughter missions. With support and encouragement from the McCauleys, the Reverend Albert and Ellen Rullifson established the Bowery Mission just 1 mile away. For 15 decades, the McCauley legacy has lived on through countless stories of lives transformed at the Bowery Mission. These stories both humble us and spur us onward. They remind us of who we are and who we will continue to be by God's grace. In 1880, the blind poet and songwriter Fanny Crosby was 60 years old and recently separated from her husband. Deeply moved by the testimony of Jerry McCauley, Fanny devoted the next 30 years of her life to writing and making music in New York's most impoverished neighborhoods. She wrote thousands of hymns, and her piano resides in the Bowery Mission today. One night in 1927, at the height of Prohibition, George Bolton wandered into the McCauley Mission and fell asleep in the basement. Bolton was a World War I veteran, an alcoholic, a gambler, and he was homeless. A pastor at the mission found him and, as Bolton put it, pulled him from the pit. From that moment, Bolton surrendered his life to God. He reunited with his family and went on to serve as leader of the Bowery Mission for 17 years.
I have ministered, shall I say, on Skid Row, endeavoring to tell men that there are no hopeless cases with God.
In the late 1960s, the Bowery was still New York's Skid Row, with rows of flop houses and bars for men down on their luck. It was during this era that Frank Grandy, a violent alcoholic, had a near-death encounter on the streets of New York. After being stabbed in a park, Grandy could only think of one place to go. Desperate, he knocked on the mission's doors. That pivotal moment marked the end of Grandy's life on the street. At the age of 36, he completed the mission's residential program and embraced a new life of dignity and purpose. Grandy is remembered for painting the Bowery Mission's doors their iconic red color, inspired by his experience of coming to the doors bleeding, as well as Jesus Christ's sacrifice for our redemption.
My name is James Macklin. I was formerly a businessman, but in the 1980s, at the height of the New York City crack epidemic, I became homeless and addicted to crack. One day I was sleeping on the subway when a woman woke me. "What is a man like you doing sleeping on a train?" she said, and gave me a card with the directions to the Bowery Mission. That was the beginning of a new life.
For 30 years, James Macklin has shared the hope he found at the Bowery Mission with visitors from all walks of life. Today, he serves as the mission's outreach director.
My name is Tara. I lost my mom in 2012, and I had a grief so profound I became suicidal. A fellow volunteer at the Bowery Mission helped me check into a hospital. I then entered the mission's residential program, where I was embraced by a community of love and safety and got back on my feet.
In 2022, Tara returned to work as the mission's alumni coordinator, connecting graduates, many of whom are women with children, to ongoing resources as they rebuild their lives.
New York City has changed all around us. Our economy, our culture, our skyline, our streets are no longer what they were in the 1870s. But what hasn't changed is the vision set forth by Jerry and Maria Macaulay. No one is lost to God. Great pain and seemingly insurmountable setbacks can be overcome when one is welcomed into a community of love and grace. And when one person's life is transformed, it impacts their family, their workplace, the neighborhood, and the whole city. This message is no less true today than it was 150 years ago. The promise at the Bowery Mission is this: you too can be a part of that transformation. And by supporting the Bowery Mission, you may just find yourself transformed in the process.